All right, today is Monday, September 10, 2018. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes CSI implementation group. So code freeze was last week. We're going to go over quickly the tasks that we signed up for this quarter and what the current state is. So kubelet device registration mechanism, these PRs got merged. So we're looking good there. I'll go ahead and remove the details. And then CSI cluster registry, as well as the new CSI node info object were also merged. And passing workload information to CSI also got in. And do not require attach operation is also in. And I believe inline volume support was also merged. Let me triple check here. Actually, no, sorry.
No.
Inline, right. Vlad, do you want to give an update on this? I think this was the one we're going to think about doing potentially an exception or figure that out today.
I still got way too much stuff to clear out, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do an exception, but
Okay.
even the API PR hasn't been looked at in a few days.
Okay.
So that
so
would be
say no exception, because it's getting
for now, no exception, unless things change drastically in the next couple of days where I get the PR, the API PR get approval.
Yeah.
If that happens and I can do a host path demo, then yes. If that doesn't happen this week, no.
Okay, that's perfectly okay. That means it'll get in early next quarter, and we'll have to figure out if this is something we can cherry pick back. Probably not, but that's okay. All right, cool. Thanks a lot for all the hard work there. I know there was a lot of dependencies here, and we didn't quite get the code review bandwidth that we wanted, so that's okay. And then finally, CSI topology support. I saw that it merged over the weekend, so great work on that. We can stop tracking the details for this. And then mount propagation merged. So the next steps here are, actually we should track snapshots. So the next steps are figuring out what we need to do before code freeze. After code freeze, before the 1.12 release is actually cut. So for each one of these items, or each one of the items that we have, let's make sure that we address the corresponding post-code freeze issues. For kubelet device plugin registration, moving to beta, there's some documentation that needs to be addressed. And maybe trying to push the CSI spec in, update the CSI spec with the registration stuff. This is low priority. I'd potentially even consider this P3. For snapshots, there's documentation work and blog post. For passing workload information to CSI, we need to update the Kubernetes CSI documentation to say that this is now possible and how you do it. It doesn't actually require any spec changes, and there's no changes on Sidecar Containers. Does anybody want to sign up for updating the documentation for this workload information stuff since Jan is out?
Who was Virtual Jan?
Virtual Jan was Hamanth and I think
we can ping him.
Yeah, okay. CSI cluster driver registry. We still have to modify Sidecar Container to actually create the CSI driver object. So the decision we need to make here is which Sidecar Container is going to be responsible for doing this. Let me read through this comment here. What's that, Vlad?
I maybe I misunderstood. I thought the registration of the CSI driver object was being done entry. Maybe I misunderstood.
My understanding was there's two objects. There is a CSI driver object, which is a cluster-wide object, and then there's a CSI node info object, which is per node. The CSI node info object is being created entry. That's created code that Chang just checked in for topology. So that's it does a CSI get node info call, and then it takes that information in kubelet and it creates that object. But for the CSI driver object, we don't really have anything to create that. We could put it into kubelet, but I think it makes more sense to have it in one of the sidecar containers. The challenge is that since there's only one of these objects per cluster, every one of these instances that comes up, we'll have to test the, if we put it in the driver registrar, we'll have to have logic to ensure that we do checking and everything.
Yeah, it should try push and it'll say it's there already, and it says that's fine. I'll just.
The alternative is that we stick it into one of the, the replica set object. But then the thing is, if I want to write a driver that doesn't have a control plane, I shouldn't be required to deploy a replica set just so that I can create this.
No, it should go in the. I think it should go in the driver registrar. It's fine.
Driver registrar.
Well, there's one more option. We do have a hook with the driver registration that happens entry. There's that call when the driver gets registered with the that's with the kubelet.
Yeah, but that's entry. It's already frozen, no?
Yeah, entry is frozen.
Yeah, that too.
I think between kubelet driver registration and driver registrar, honestly, they end up having the same problems, which is that we need to check before we create it to make sure that another instance didn't already create it. And that's okay. I think that's a small trade-off versus the alternative, which is having another cluster-wide container that will do this, because that means that the caller or the driver author has to run a replica set, another container in their replica set, and maybe they don't want to do a replica set at all if they don't have a control plane. So I'm okay with this. Let's say we'll do it in driver registrar.
Yeah, and just a quick question, because I'm curious on the implementation. The create call, every one of these driver registrars that come up, all of them send a create call, and only one succeeds, and the rest get the object already exists. So they just ignore it, right? And that's it.
Yep.
Right?
All instances do a create and
check the result, right?
Check result, yeah. Now, the interesting thing is if you have multiple instances running of different versions, what happens there? I have version 1 that supports something and version 2 that changes that.
Yeah, but wouldn't those versions have the same name, which is not allowed?
Yes, not allowed, yeah.
Right. So then what happens is that the new one tries to come up and create a updated version of this thing, and it fails.
Well, I mean, the CSI driver name returned is not allowed because it's the same name that goes in the provisioner. Because the provision will be confused, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The only way you would be able to.
I deployed a new version of this driver that changed some ability, right?
I just think it's a bad idea.
You shouldn't change abilities.
I just slapped the hand. It's like, no, don't do that.
Well, I mean, it's still. if you're doing rollout or roll up, you have to be able to do that, right? If a driver is already running with that name and you want to deploy a new one, how do you do it?
Yeah.
Do you kill the current driver running?
As long as the object that's going to be created is identical to the previous object, it's not an issue because the object already exists.
Yeah.
But if the new version tries to modify or wants to change the object, then it becomes an issue. So then, I mean, what we could say is, if you're going to do that, then we're going to need to have logic that says, do a diff, like if the object already exists, look at the existing object and see what the fields look like, and do a update to update that. But now the problem is you could potentially end up in a place where an older version and a newer version are fighting back and forth to update that object to what they think the current state should be.
I like things simple.
Yeah, which is...
Well, I mean...
So let me, I'll volunteer for this if you don't mind.
So what do you mean by you like things simple? How would you handle it?
I just think that in that situation where you do an upgrade, that the versioning, it's not included in the payload for the identification of the driver. It's still the same driver, right? But if the driver does something new, then it should be a different name. That's my suggestion to the driver.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. But if it's a newer version of the same driver, let's say it's a minor update, but you want to get it out there. And based on what we're saying, if we're going to check the name in using the sidecar, and if it already exists, we will not. I guess it shouldn't matter, because if the new version is not introducing no new capability,
yes, exactly right.
The CSI driver object, then we should be okay.
Yeah, exactly right.
Another option is to encode the version number into the name of the object.
Like tag it like a container, like colon version.
Problem with that is I don't think the callers look at the version number.
No.
So that gets pretty ugly pretty fast.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bunch of work.
And then the third option we said was update the object if already exists, but the drawback is could result in fighting between versions. So it sounds like we're kind of going with option one.
Keep it simple.
Support driver name must be different.
Basically, we're saying we're not going to support this use case. If you want to change these options, you need to, well, it's either that or let's say option 1.5 is in order to do this type of upgrade, you have to basically delete your old driver from the system and then deploy your new driver.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's the other.
Deleting driver completely before installing new driver. That's also not a great option, but better than the alternatives. Okay, Luis, you mentioned you were interested in working on this?
Yeah, I haven't added some code yet this quarter to CSI. I'd like to.
Awesome.
Throw my name in the hat.
All right, I'll put your name on it.
Who's actually?
I'm the one who worked on this.
Okay, good. Because it probably need to mentor me a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. Other than that, there will be documentation on Kubernetes CSI.
Do I need to write that, or would that be there already?
That needs to be written.
Oh, okay, so I can write that too. All right.
Yeah. It's basically just capturing, hey, we have these objects now. Here's what they mean. Here's what they are, that kind of thing.
Got it.
Here's who creates them. How do you configure them? New objects, what they are
I
used
don't.
for, who creates them.
I don't think we'll have any issues with the object because it is not up to. It's not an object that a user or an admin can define. So we should not have a different versions of CSI, the CSI driver object.
Yeah, the object itself.
Yeah, the object itself will be static until it gets updated by one of us. So then we should not have like any differentiation in versioning of the object itself, even if the driver is changing.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Will we be stepping on? Will the CSI driver object be stepping on different version toes? But I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah.
So we should be okay.
I think the only challenge is that if the driver's behavior changes between one release of the driver and another release of the driver, right? Let's say skip attach, for example. It does a release of skip attach where it doesn't care, and then it does another release where it wants to set it. So now it wants to update this CSI driver object to say, I want to change this field from false to true.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So that becomes painful.
Yeah, that sounds like, it sounds like it's something you would completely undeploy and deploy because it's a major change in functionality, like Lewis was saying.
Yep. But that's the kind of thing where if if the answer is completely undeploy and redeploy, it might not be the best answer because that means that essentially your cluster is not going to have this driver available for the duration of this upgrade. In general, that's not the best answer.
That won't work. You'll have it won't work.
Taking an availability hit just to do an upgrade is usually not the best answer.
Maybe we'll let's schedule another meeting just for that.
Yeah.
Discuss
it.
Yeah.
I'll not cross these out then, and then I'll let Luis think through some of these, and we can do a meeting to talk about it. All right, cool. So let's go through the rest of these items. Kubelet device plugin registration mechanism, we already have the tasks above. Registry, we have the tasks. CSI, node info status. Is there any sidecar containers that need to be updated for this? As far as I understand, this logic is implemented by Kubelet. These objects are created by Kubelet, and then they are used by, they're going to be used by the attach-detach controller. So this, so let's say external attacher should be updated to one look at node info status object if it exists, and then to look at annotation if it does not exist. Fallback. Is Chang on the call? Sorry, go ahead, Vlad.
No, what I was going to say, number 2 is what it's doing right now, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and preliminarily assign this to Chang, and then we can go from there, and then update Kubernetes CSI docs if needed. I don't think there's any other driver changes. As far as I understand, there's 2 sets of fields in that node info object. One is the node name. The node name is used by the external attacher when it's deciding to attach. And the second is the topology fields. And that information is used by Kubernetes when it's making a decision about where to provision a volume. So external provisioner actually needs to be updated. That's going to be actually a significant amount of work. Should be updated to handle topology. Make this a P0, make this a P1, and then update documentation. Does anybody want to help Chang with this? At least the external attacher part might be easy.
Yeah, I might need to change either the attacher or the provisioner for what I'm doing, actually.
Okay. So maybe
I don't know
talk
if
to
I
Chang
have the
offline and see where you guys can
Yeah.
divide up the work. That way you're not stepping on each other's toes, and maybe like one of you could take
Right.
the provisioner and one of you take the attacher.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll reach out to him.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Vlad. So that one is going to be, I think, the biggest piece of work that we have left, this external provisioner update to handle topology. Okay. Next up is passing workload information to CSI. That's already handled in Kubelet. So the only thing that's remaining is documentation. And we'll see if a month or someone can update that. Do not require attach. That's also along the same lines. The work there is on the attacher side, or sorry, on the Kubernetes side, and it's already part of the core. Not much that we need to do on the workloads to make this happen anymore. What we could do is update the NFS driver to use this to not require a controller. So let's say that's a 3. It could be like our demo.
Yep.
And then that's not require attach for inline. It doesn't look like. Will there be any outside work for this, Vlad, for inline?
What do you mean by outside?
Sorry, the for the sidecar containers.
Oh, there probably will be, from what I'm thinking, there probably will be some changes to. Oh yeah, definitely there'll be changes to the external attacher, because now we're not just passing the persistent volume name, we're also passing a copy of the volume source, the inline volume source. So the information will be coming from either persistent volume, which is now lookup, or it'll be a copy of a volume source, which is being attached directly to the object. So yeah, definitely it will be changed there.
Okay.
And that's what I was referring to when I said there'll be change.
Okay, so, okay, that makes sense. And then for topology, the biggest changes are going to be on the external provisioner, which is going to be responsible for taking these labels that are being applied on the node info, the new CSI node info object, and then applying it on the provisioning of a new volume. And then once a new volume is provisioned, The external provisioner is responsible for applying the correct fields on the PV object so that Kubernetes knows how to react to them. So that work remains to be done. On the namespace propagation work, we should update our examples to, or actually the namespace propagation just changed the name. Did it change version or did it just change a comment? Take a look at that real quick. Oops. Oh, it just changed the feature gate. Okay, so that should not require any API changes, which means no further work from our side. And then snapshots. Actually, we'll need to update Kubernetes IO documentation. I think Fabio already did that. Let's take a look at that real quick. Yeah, he already has it. Perfect. I'm not sure why that was superseded. All right, cool. Next up is snapshots, and snapshots we already captured above. Move this up to. Okay, so lots of documentation work. Go ahead, Shane.
One issue related to the external snapshot repo, we don't have the CNCF CLA enabled, and then they are saying this should be enabled at the Kubernetes CSI organization level. So I added one item at top. They opened an issue on this.
Okay.
But I won't have permission to do that because this is at the organization level.
Okay. Yeah, that is the correct place where you opened it.
It's actually the other person opened that.
Okay.
So it looks like either you or Luis will need to add a webhook in the under Kubernetes CSI. I was just reading the instructions. Sounds like it's the.
So neither Luis or I have org level permissions on Kubernetes CSI anymore.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
we lost it. Yeah.
The
Okay.
only person who will have it are these folks that are part of
Okay.
Kubernetes org. They have a little team over here.
Okay.
So they're the right people to handle it. So
Okay.
I'm sure Aaron's going to be able to do this on his own.
Oh, okay, so it's fine. And we don't have to do anything right now.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to do anything additional. Aaron will take care of this.
Cool. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks for following up on that.
No problem.
Okay, let's go through miscellaneous updates real quick. We were talking last time about when we're going to cut the sidecar containers, whether it's going to be slightly before the Kubernetes release, slightly after. I think we probably need to do both. So slightly before the 1.12 release, we can pick up like the latest RC as a dependency for our sidecar containers, cut our sidecar containers and branches, and then shortly after the 1.12 release, we update the branch and release to pick up the official 1.12 release. And that minimizes the amount of changes that we have afterwards, but it also allows us to get the official release as well.
We could do the same thing. We could branch and tag the same tags as they do, like beta, RC, and so on. We do the same thing.
That would be okay as well. Is there any benefit to tagging a release as official before it's official?
No, it's just if you branch it, but you tag it as whatever tag you want.
Right.
Right.
RC or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you keep moving, you keep tagging that branch, not master anymore, right? So master is now next.
So let's say create sidecar container 112 branches
Branches, yeah.
closer to 112 release. Create tags that match Kubernetes.
Yeah, and we can do that anytime, really. Just pick a day and we can do it. It's just that once we do that, then developers have to know that if they want it in the 112 branch, they have to both go in master first, then cherry pick.
Now, so far, our sidecar containers have been following CSI in terms of tagging. So it's been the 0.2, 0.3.
Mhm.
Are we going to continue to do that?
Let me see. I thought it was like dash something. Let me look at the tag. Like driver registrar or something. So yeah, we had release dash 0.20, release dash 0.30.
Yeah, so I'm looking at external attacher here, and we have 0.30, 0.20.
Yeah, with .1 with patches.
So do we want to continue this model because we didn't officially have a CSI release?
That's a good question. I think we're going to. I guess it depends what we wanted to do. These guys, these Sidecar containers are tied down to two different worlds, right?
Yep.
The CSI world and the Kubernetes world. And I almost feel like they're both moving at their own speeds.
Mm-hmm.
And this, we have to either come up with our own versioning number,
Yeah.
or match one of them.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what's gonna have to be.
Yep.
So if we at least match CSI, which is what we've been doing,
Mm-hmm.
just picking one of them, we just document that we can branch like a new one, and we can call the branch whatever we want. I don't know. Well, maybe we have both numbers in there, branch and CSI. I mean Kubernetes number. I don't know. I really don't know. I have no idea what to do.
I think the reality is exactly like you said. We're trying to track two different code bases, the CSI one,
Yeah.
the Kubernetes one, but realistically, our thing is its own release. It's its own component, which happens to align with CSI as well as Kubernetes.
Yep.
So what we can do is break our release versioning from both of them.
Yep. I agree with that.
And so from 0.3, we go to 0.4 release. So all of our sidecar containers that we cut this quarter are going to be a 0.4 release.
Awesome.
And then in the release notes for the 0.4 release, we say this version aligns with CSI version such and such, and it aligns with Kubernetes version such and such.
Yeah.
And
completely agree. Yep.
that way we kind of can control our own destiny to a certain extent.
Yeah, because if not, we're going to get ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Perfect.
So let's say all sidecar.
Do we have a single page for all our release notes, or do we have a release notes per repo per release?
We have a release note per repo per release, so it'll be something like this.
Okay. All right.
We could also do something like the that drivers page we have for that links out to the drivers that folks have.
In the documentation
page? We could have a sidecar containers page that says what's the latest release.
Yeah, I think that's probably better.
Yeah.
Because if not, it's gonna take tedious.
Yeah.
So
I think we should do that as well. That'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
So,
we can refer the releases from the repos to that page.
Exactly. You can link back to the releases.
Yeah.
So every time there's a new release, we say, hey, just update that page to say the latest version is such and such.
Super. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So all Sidecar containers will release this quarter, or this, all Sidecar containers will be cut as 0.4 this quarter. We are going to adopt our own independent versioning, independent of Kubernetes and CSI. The release notes should capture what version of CSI and Kubernetes these are container release supports. So now the challenge is, since we're not aligning with the Kubernetes version, when do we do the release? I think doing a release, we wanted to do it slightly before the official release.
When is the official one?
The official 1.12 Kubernetes release.
No, when is it?
I forget. I believe it's like near the end of September.
Oh, okay. Then we can cut it on the 17th, a week from today, and we just start working with RCs and things like that.
Okay.
Or we can close it 24th. Either
I
one.
think it'll also depend on how quickly we get this work done.
It doesn't really matter. It's just like, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter, really. As long as we do it before.
Does it have to be before?
If we want it in the E2E test, we're gonna have to do it before.
Mm-hmm.
Who's doing E2E tests changes?
Um,
Because we should pull in the latest 0.4 now container.
That's a good point. We didn't track that. Update E2E tests.
And maybe all it is changing in the version numbers, right? Give it to Patrick.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
That's simple enough for me.
Awesome.
Trying to include him.
Yeah, that's great.
So my coworker will be looking at adding those tests for snapshots. This is the entry one you're talking about, right?
Yes.
The entry. Okay.
Yeah, this is just to change the numbers of the containers, really. So there's two works there. There's the updating the E2E test to the new versions of the external stuff, and then the snapshot stuff you're talking about, Jing.
Okay.
Yeah. Zheng, for your information, I'm currently discussing with the CSI testing, with the SIG testing group, how to define parameters, basically the configuration options for tests. And the consensus so far seems to be that my proposal to define them in the test code itself will become a reality. So the centralized flag adding in test context, that will be gone. And if you add new tests, I would suggest that you already now use the flag model directly in the test code.
Sweet.
And that will continue to work. It's just not what's getting done at the moment, but it will continue to work. That's my goal.
Okay. Yeah. Probably need to sync up with you
Yeah.
offline because I haven't really looked at those tests.
Yeah. Because Patrick is in Europe, so we're in the East Coast, so we should match time.
So let's figure out the dates as we get closer, but it sounds like we're going to have to do a release before the official 1.12 release so that we can update the Kubernetes end-to-end test to pick up the latest version of the sidecars, and then shortly after we do an update to pick up the official release of Kubernetes.
Yeah. So it's going to have to probably be either the 17th or somewhere that week.
Yeah.
So we can get enough time to do the change and I've reviewed. So.
Yep. So E2E test can use that. And then one after. So sidecar container dependency can be updated to pick up Okay, so let's say maybe September 17th for the first one, and then we'll figure out the second one. So let's, can I put cutting the releases on you, Luis?
Yeah, you got it.
Cut releases of...
I think I'm gonna write a script for that.
Nice. Okay. So you got a rough plan there. And then finally, Patrick, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I just learned about this Kubernetes PR dashboard, Kubernetes, from a blog post on kubernetes.org. And it looks like this is not enabled for any of the Kubernetes CSI repositories. What needs to be done is by someone with sufficient privileges for these repositories to add some webhooks. And the second link in that issue that I filed for CSI test has instructions. I've personally found this overview fairly useful. My view is a bit shorter. So I would like to see that get enabled for all of the Kubernetes CSI repos.
Yeah.
I filed only one issue for CSI test. The same thing would need to be done by for all of the repositories. So I guess we need someone with sufficient privileges.
Okay. I think, Luis, you should have permissions to help with this.
Yeah, I have, I think, enough. I'll if I don't, then I'll ping Saad. If we don't, then we'll ping the CNCF.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah.
And I thought when I said I like the PR, Patrick, it's the one where it's my mistake. I was talking about something else. It's the one I think I already merged from your work.
Yeah, you merged something.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any pending PR anymore now.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's all that we have for this meeting. Anything else anybody wants to discuss?
I added something toward the end. It was somebody had opened a bug, or yeah, I think it was a bug. It has to do with BRD and block devices.
Okay.
I thought I put it on there. Yeah, right there. So it's something that I'll be tracking. That's the first block device bug that I've seen. So that's
nice.
good. I mean, somebody is using it, or at least trying to use it.
Okay.
So it's pretty. The detail of what's going on is in the comment below.
Oh, okay.
And
this is not very descriptive.
Yeah, it's not much here.
Okay.
So the detail is in the comment, and I have to take some time to look through some of the stuff that
awesome. This is great.
is being raised. Yeah, this is exactly what I needed in actual use case. So this will kind of guide debugging some of the stuff for block. So I'll get back with that person. So yeah.
All right. Thank you, Vlad, for following up on that.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. All right. That's all that I have for today's meeting. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? How did we end up with 2 September 7s? All right. I'll take care of that offline. All right. Then we'll call it today, and I'll see you on Wednesday.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Take care.
All right. Later. Bye.